Okay. So for the next question, this is how will you build rapport and relationships with your students, not just in the beginning of the year, but throughout the year.
Yeah. Oh, so I think a way we can do that is just kind of giving the students like time to share about their days in their lives, and just kind of having like an open time to communicate. So kind of like a community circle.
I like that. Kind of building off of that, like having this open discussion, how we can do that with each age group is like if they're a little younger, instead of having like, let's say, an open discussion, we can have a smaller discussion of things like how was your weekend, or how was your summer if this is the beginning of the year, and tell me one thing that you liked about your summer. And and kind of building off of that, or like if they're older kids, saying more in-depth questions.
Yeah,
you know?
I like that. And then to also build on that, to keep it going, some kids are not gonna want to share in any group setting, so we should always give them an option. Like in our current class, how Miss Ashley has flinch and she throws into like a couple people, or just giving people a chance to maybe raise their hand if they want to share, and that way like you could randomly choose, and so people aren't feeling like, oh, like everyone's looking at me and I'm gonna say pass, and that's like hard for them.
Right. Something that I also thought of was like discussing rules and regulations in the classroom.
Yes.
And making sure every voice is heard. And so having that discussion of what do you feel are good rules, regulations, what is going to make you comfortable in this classroom, kind of just to build that rapport and be able to build those connections with the students, not only teacher student, but also student to student, having those connections and knowing throughout the year that those are the rules, and having a good reminder throughout the year.
Yes, that's just a great idea, and just kind of letting them just get to help decide what these classroom rules are gonna be will kind of give them like the sense of like, this is my space, not just a teacher space I'm coming and sitting in every day. So we'll kind of like brighten up the classroom, and you could even have them all sign the rules at the end, so like they could say, oh, this is something we all agree on. This is something we're all gonna like agree on and like work on through the whole year. And you can even throughout the year kind of remind them about it, or you can be like, hey class, how are we still feeling about our rules like halfway through? And like, is there some changes we need to change, or are there things that may be going really well that we want to keep the same?
Yeah, I completely agree. And not only having them like sign it, and not only having them go through and thinking of things, but also you signing it and you saying, I will also uphold to these. Like, it's not just for you, but it's also for me. What are some things that you want from me that I can make this classroom more comfortable, and help make this classroom more comfortable for you as students as well.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
So then another thing I think that we can do to help build our like relationships with our students is if we are being open and honest. So at the beginning of the year, you could tell them like, hey guys, like this is what's gonna happen in our class, and this is how I think things should be. And so you're honest with them and how your feelings are, and just kind of keeping that throughout the whole year.
Yeah, I agree. I think sharing your life is very important, obviously in moderation, but like sharing things like, these are my pets, and this is my friends, or these are my friends, and this is my family, and things like that. And then having that, like, this is how my summer went, this is something, I did throughout the summer. Sharing like these facts about yourself, and being able to be open and honest with your students, and maybe asking them to say, what is something that you did this summer that you thought was very cool? And if they don't want to share, that's okay, and making sure that is known, like explaining to them if you feel like you don't want to share, that's okay, or even just having them raise their hands so those who do want to share can raise their hands and share.
Yeah, I really like that. And then to go along with that, because we're supposed to be thinking about this the whole year and keeping those relationships growing. We can talk about like your friends and your family throughout the school year as well. So like maybe you could be like midway through the year, you could be like, hey, like this is how I'm doing, like this is how my dogs are, these are how my family and friends are, would you like to share about your friends and family? And then you could also, like, if they're not comfortable sharing, you know that's not going to work for your group, you could maybe make it at the end of an exit question. So the normal questions about like what's 1 + 1, your normal math questions, at the end of it you could be like optional, like what's something about the week that you've really enjoyed, what's something about the last couple of months that you've really like been happy about or like to share with me.
Right. I completely agree with that. And kind of, going along with like sharing, you could also ask them, do you have any animals or pets at home? Do you have any siblings?
Yeah.
I could share, I have 5 siblings, and they can, share how many siblings they have, or if they don't have any.
I think that would really work in like the younger classrooms too, because they're not really gonna know what you mean until you give them examples, and then if you kind of lay it out for them, that makes it a lot easier too.
Exactly. And I completely agree with that. I think that it would really help, like you said, the younger classrooms by giving them that example, or even with the older classrooms, if you want to give them that example, so they feel more open and they feel more comfortable sharing. I think that would be a very good idea.
Yeah.
Kind of going down to building relationships, something that I thought of, it goes into the rules and regulations. That is a very good way to build the relationships with your students, and being able to have your students be open and honest with you, and giving them those options of what do you feel would be best for our classroom, I think can build a good relationship between you and the students.
I really like that. So I think we're on the same page.
Something else that I kind of was thinking about, and it goes into like giving them options. If there's something like a prize box, you can always ask them, what prizes do you want in here? What kind of snacks would you like in here? Or if we're decorating for certain seasons, like winter or fall or spring, and if we're decorating for any certain holiday, we can ask them, what would you like to put in here? And maybe even having them decorate and make those decorations could also help build that relationship and build almost a sense of trust within the classroom.
Yeah, I like that. And then to kind of build along with that, with the current kids I work with, I have really realized, like, if I ask, like, what kind of candy would you like to see in our prize bucket, and then they are really willing to give those options and say what kind of candy they like. And so then that really kind of makes them say, oh, you're gonna listen to me, you want to hear my ideas. And so I think that's also a really good thing to consider about that.
Right, just taking their ideas into consideration will build a relationship and build that trust between you and them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Something that I also wanted to touch on was just how this would continue, not just in the beginning of the year, but throughout the year.
Yes.
And I thought, like with the rules and regulations, kind of bringing it back to there, and like I said, kind of towards the beginning, building, like making a poster is definitely something that can stand there throughout the year. And even if we need to kind of change it up a bit throughout the year, it'll still be there as a reminder for our students. Like, here is how we're gonna build the trust. Here is how we can keep this going and keep our classroom running strong.
Yeah, I really like that. Just kind of having those reminders are always nice, but then also like the students can memorize it. And as we were talking about in class the other day, like a student can like will see these posters and stuff like on the walls, and like that's what they're gonna remember. Like they're probably gonna remember more of that, especially in like the younger grades, on what was on the posters, than they are gonna remember what the teacher was talking about.
And something for like the younger grades, if we're doing rules and regulations, instead of having words, because sometimes it's harder for students to read, maybe we can have pictures, and we can have the words and pictures and kind of match it up and like explain it at the beginning of the year for those younger grades who have a harder time with reading.
Yes, because some students are not going to know how to read, or they're not going to feel comfortable talking out loud with their peers, or like maybe starting a conversation kind of thing.
Exactly. And I really just wanted to stress like that constant consideration of your students, like
yes,
consistently throughout the year, taking into consideration things that maybe aren't working for them. And it's okay if we say like, oh, well, here's why, but making sure that they're being listened to and being heard throughout the year, I think will very much continue this relationship that you have with your students.
Yes, definitely showing that you will listen and like understand what they're going through will definitely be really helpful. And also being able to say like, we cannot change that right now, but let me think about it, and maybe in the next couple weeks we can change how we're doing things so we're all in a happy, safe, comfortable environment.
Right. And I think also the constant of sharing of your life, like how here's how my weekend went, or here's how my week is going.
Yes.
Let's have a small discussion. How did your weekend go?
Who would like to share about their weekend?
Right. Who would like to share about how their week is going?
Yeah, I like that.
And just kind of having those options for them, having those discussions, and being able to be open and honest, I think are very good foundations for building the reports and relationships between you and your students, and even student to student, if we think about it that way.
Yeah, I really like that. Let's see, is there anything else we need to share?
I don't think so.
We should go back to our community circle and talk about that. So we just need for the students to feel comfortable and like they can talk to us and feel like we are building a good relationship. Being able to let them like choose how we run the community circle, I think will be really important. And also just like making sure they are like 100% aware that it is okay to skip. Like if they do not want to share for the whole class, like maybe say, so you could start it up by saying, it is okay to share. Like you can come up to me after class, before recess, before lunch, after lunch, and you can share with me one-on-one, and so that way they still feel like they can share with you. But that way
they don't have to share with the entire class. Yes.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Yeah. So,
I think that's it.
perfect.
Whoa.